Okay. Well, she's working on it. I'll start the meeting. It is February 23rd, 2026. I'm going to call the special meeting of the Bay City City Commission to order. My mic is on, but it doesn't echo. It's just recording. The city clerk will give the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Almighty God, send down upon those who hold office in this city the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Kubik.
Here.
Oakley.
Here.
Doyle. Kenny.
Here.
Zanotti.
Here.
DeWitt.
Here.
Runberg. Charlebois.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
And Mayor.
Present. And we have two commissioners, Commissioner Runberg and Doyle. What's your pleasure on those to move to excuse? Or, all right, Commissioner DeWitt. Make sure the green light is on these. So,
Motion to excuse Commissioners Doyle and Runberg.
is there a second? Commissioner Coakley.
Second.
All right. Any objection to excusing those commissioners? All right. Seeing none, Commissioners Runberg and Doyle are excused. So what we do have tonight, it is a very specific meeting on selecting a manager search consultant. We have is it 7 before us tonight. We're going to try to keep these to 20 minutes. So we do have a tight window. We do have very specific questions. I'll let the city manager kind of go over what we're looking to do and go from there.
Just for the presenter, I know you probably won't go through every slide because you want to leave room for obviously questions because we're doing everything within that 20 presentation and questions. It's a lot and it's fast. So in your packets, commissioners, you do have their proposals, and I believe it's in order for the list for tonight. You also have in there the interview questions and notes. So we can go through those and just to write your comments down on that if you'd like to, because we have an interview score sheet that's also in there for you. I weighted the 5-question category all the same, so they're all 20%, and it's a rating of 1 to 5 on each of those categories, with 5 being the highest rating. And then we just do the grand total at the end and go from there, okay? Okay. Yeah, if that's, yeah. I think that's it.
All right, perfect. Just let the record show that Commissioner Runberg has arrived. And then we'll have the clerk do the scoring, or can we have, when we do at the end, the tally?
That's fine.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I'll help you.
Okay, thank you.
That's a lot.
Okay,
harder.
yeah. Yeah. I prefer somebody else do that. So, all right. Well, great. We have the Headhunters presentation up first. I don't know if I have names on who.
There's a mic down there too, if you want to stand. Whatever you want to do. There's 2 chairs down there at the end if you want to sit at the table, and there's a microphone, and then there's a handheld.
So we're gonna, I guess we'll just shoot through these questions real quick. We'll start on Commissioner Coakley.
You
What?
want to give their presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? There's a presentation. Yes, I was thinking that. Yeah, go ahead and start with your presentation.
I'll just kind of get to the, if you go to the PR process.
Okay. Get there. There we go. All right. Where do you want me to go to?
The third slide.
Okay.
Okay.
Is this the one, or you want me to go one more?
One more.
Okay. There we go.
Kind of small, but. Speak into the microphone.
Yes, because
Okay.
it's live streaming right now.
Awesome. I feel like a movie star. My name is Bill Wodneski, and I own a search firm in Troy, Michigan called The Headhunters, and we specialize in executive placement. Our process is a little bit different, and this is just kind of background for all of you if you've never been through executive search before, and process of how someone like our firm would go out and conduct the search. So we do a deep intake call with the decision makers in this role and find out exactly what it is that you want, so we know what we're talking about when we end up talking to people. And by people, I mean the candidates that would be interested in a role like this. And then our firm stays on the bleeding edge of technology. We use the latest tools in social media and artificial intelligence to identify the candidates, get all their contact information. And part of the process is to get them excited enough to talk to us about being the next city manager of Bay City. And then we'll reach out to probably, our preliminary research is about 50 interested candidates for a role like this. Obviously, some of those would be relocation candidates, but we haven't even got that far. And we will reach out with those carefully curated messages to connect with them, and then we start a screening process in step 4. And so the city will never see candidates that aren't very good or they're not serious. So all the tire kickers, we kick all those people out, and only people that are qualified and interested in work, qualified and competent enough to work for the salary that we're willing to pay will be presented. And then step 5, we begin the interview process. And each one of those rounds, candidates are giving feedback to us. We're sharing that feedback with the city, and nobody moves forward if they're not actually really serious or not qualified. And candidates will tell us things that they would never share with, I'm giving away all my secrets here on TV, but candidates will tell us things that they're feeling about the search that they wouldn't share with the employer, and vice versa. We navigate that situation, and we're giving that feedback to you, like, hey, it would be really good if we did this, or they're interested in this, but not this. And then we work through finally getting it down to last 2 or 3 candidates and work out salary, compensation issues, if there's any issues there to be worked out. And then, unlike other firms, we stick around all the way through their resignation of their current role, make sure that they show up here on day 1, make sure that the onboarding process went well. We'll give that feedback to the city, and then we stick around for a month or 2 just to ensure a good fit. So, and then I know we're tight on time, but if you can slide forward.
Yep.
These are just the bios of my team. These are for you to keep. So the people that I anticipate working the most on the team on this would be Carrie Neal and myself, and then Dan is another search guy. So I know you have some questions. What can I answer for this group tonight?
Yep. I think we'll start with Commissioner Coakley first and work our way around, because we do have 21 questions.
If we get through them.
Walk us through a retained executive search you led at end to end.
End to end. So our most recent search, retained search, was a vice president of human resources, and it was a great story. It was the first executive search that we ever completed around the COVID timeframe, and that candidate had retired, and we got to backfill for that retiring vice president. So we worked hand to hand with him. It was a client that we have a great relationship with. We know really, really well. Unlike the previous search in 2021, it was in the Minneapolis area, so we sourced only local candidates, and we narrowed that down to 4 candidates and then 2 candidates, and then ultimately at the end of the day, company decided on the candidate they wanted, and we've stuck around to make sure that it's a good fit. Everybody's still happy today.
How would you handle confidentiality in sensitive replacements, and how do you manage conflicts of interest?
So confidentiality, we're very discreet, and so this is a different search. I mean, everything's public in this forum, so that's one of the things that I'd want to understand from the city. How discreet do you wish to be? And it also makes the search very challenging for the city if you have somebody from a neighboring community that's interested but does not want to let their employer know that they're pursuing this role. So that's going to be a big challenge that you're going to have to overcome. So we're really big on discretion. I use the saying that I'm a vault. So I get candidates that call me all the time that are unhappy with their employer. I never reveal that ever to an employer. I have people at clients that tell me that they're not happy. So we keep that internally. And then as far as conflicts of interest go, I'm not the auditor for the city of Bay City. I've never done business with the city of Bay City. I have no connections or ties to Bay City.
Describe a time when you recommended candidate. Let me start over. Describe a time when your recommended candidate failed and why.
Well, two things. So we are generally not in the business of recommending a candidate. So if we were in the same room and we were going between candidate A, B, and C, it is the city's decision and the hiring manager's decision who we're going to hire. Long ago, I stopped telling people who I thought they should hire unless they asked me. Like, I'm really stuck between candidate A and B. And then when you say one hasn't worked out, the searches don't work out maybe 5% of the time, and sometimes they don't work out because the candidate's not very good, which doesn't happen very often. Like, they fooled us in the interview process. And then another reason they don't work out is the scope's different. Like, we put together a job description and the guy or the gal starts the job, and that's not really what the job is. Sometimes there's a transaction or there's a restructuring that's out of everybody's control. So something unusual has happened that's prevented a successful placement.
What trends are impacting leadership hiring in this sector?
I mean, it's kind of the government, so you're being asked to do more with less and less and less and less. As far as qualified people, I do feel like the pool is getting smaller, so it's going to be a challenge to find somebody that can handle a role at this size and scope. Does that answer your question?
Sorry. How do public sector searches differ from private sector mandates?
Say that last word.
Mandates.
Mandates. So private's easy. It's like putting on an old pair of shoes for us. That's what we do the most of. I would say as far as municipality or government works, they're different. So the city, depending on how you want to handle it, and I also need to understand exactly what open transparency, like the confidentiality piece that I was talking about, like if a candidate is interested but doesn't want the public to know who they are, like we'd have to have that conversation, be like, must they do this? And if they can't or won't, then obviously they've got a decision to make to not move forward. So it makes it more challenging depending on how level of discretion and confidentiality that or open transparency that the city requires.
Thank you.
How do you manage expectations of city commission members?
So one, transparency and communication up front. So I'll tell you exactly, when I went through the 6 steps of this is what we're going to do. This is the roadmap. These are the people that we're going to target and talk to, and try to get excited about this role. And as far as the whatever the stakeholders have, what's most important to them, we will do our best to accept. So I think about it like this: when you have like a Venn diagram, you know, the 3 circles that have that little piece that intercepts in the middle. So if every single stakeholder has their own, this is what the next city manager should be, and we put all those up, do they align or not? Is there a common spot? Is everybody on the same page? So it's my job to figure out what it is that we all want. And before we do anything, we get alignment on that. That's part of that step 1 of the full-blown intake call and understanding what every decision maker and stakeholder wants out of this process.
What strategies do you use to diversify executive candidate pools?
So on the diversity side, you know, I guess from a what are we looking for in diversity?
I apologize. Excuse me, I didn't write the question.
Oh,
All diverse.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I got asked to do a search in a rural county in Kansas and was asked to find minority candidates. I'm like, there are no minority candidates here. Like, and I asked like the plant manager, I was like, if you went to like Walmart on a Saturday, does everybody look like you there? And he's like, yeah, they do. So, you know, if diversity is a criteria, then we go and we look for it and we seek it, and we'll tell you whether we found qualified candidates, and if there is a qualified candidate, they'll be presented.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Where will you post the job postings, and what will you do to seek out and encourage qualified individuals to apply? I think you kind of covered that, but go ahead again.
Yeah, so we use various social media boards, and then honestly, the outreach. I think the person that we'll find for this role wasn't looking for this role, so it's a man or a woman that's someplace else in another municipality that we gotta reach out to and get them excited about this role.
How we doing? Many residents would like the new city manager to live within the city limits. While we know that we cannot require this under the law, what could you do to address this community concern and the preference?
So part of that intake process is the sizzle, and the basic question is why does somebody want this job, and what's awesome about Bay City? So, I mean, if you find somebody that lives just outside the city limits, they're probably not going to move in here. But if you find somebody that has to relocate, you know, would they move to Midland, Saginaw, or would they relocate right here within Bay City? So it's one of the pieces of communication along the way. If you tell the candidate, it's pretty important to the stakeholders and decision makers that you live within city limits, then I would absolutely communicate that.
All right, thank you.
We have
5 more minutes. 6 minutes.
How soon could you have the job posting ready to go live on the city website?
How soon could we do the intake call with the various stakeholders in here so we could actually scope it out? Once that happens and we have like a little bit of back and forth and I understand exactly what's most important to everybody involved, then 24 hours, 48 hours.
In an effort to move forward as quickly as possible, do you see a problem with immediately posting something very simple on the city website regarding the vacancy and encouraging interested individuals to submit their resume and a cover letter to a designated person?
I want to answer it thoroughly. Can you ask it for me one more time?
In an effort to move forward as quickly as possible, do you see a problem with immediately posting something very simple to the city website regarding the vacancy and encouraging interested individuals to submit their resume and a cover letter to a designated person?
Not at all.
Is there any opportunity for cost savings with your bid?
So in my proposal, I think I was the only person that put a percentage fee in there. I am willing to do a fixed fee to take out any thoughts of I don't care who you hire. I don't, and from a price tag, if you want a fixed fee, I'll do a fixed fee.
What is a reasonable salary range depending on experience for a city manager in a city of our size? Do you have access to data of salaries from similar municipalities?
I absolutely have access to lots of different data and databases, and I would say I'd have to spend more time with the current city manager to find out exactly what's it like a week in the life of Dana, a month in the life of Dana, a year in the life of Dana. Also between city manager, mayor, city council, like understanding the governance and requirements of the role and just how much heavy lifting there is.
When do you think you could realistically have a new city manager in place?
So it depends on how fast the city moves in presenting candidates. Do we interview them quickly? Do we give quick feedback? They may have a 2, 3, 4 week resignation period in their current role. So in a private industry, no sooner than probably 30 days. Like if I had all the information that I needed and I can go find the people, interview the people, present them to the city, and the city interviews them kind of like the second or third week, and then we move through the process. It just depends on how many steps we have here as well.
Would you recommend keeping the current city manager in place under a temporary contract until the new city manager is established?
Most likely, yes, but I'd need to understand, does she want to, and what are the situations? I got a bunch more questions to ask, but from a continuity perspective, that'd be ideal.
How does your search involve the total community, businesses, employees, and residents, and even communities that border Bay City?
So that's a challenging question from obviously I can't go knock on everybody's door and ask them what it is that they want. Funneling things up through city council and some of the decision makers, I want to know what's most important to the folks here. For me personally, what types of businesses do we want to attract here? Like more dispensaries? No. Dollar trees? No. Do we want manufacturing jobs here and the right kind of economic development? Do we want an economic development person focused in the role here that's going to attract more businesses? I'd have to understand more about what the major employers in this town want or need and the talent that's available here.
All right, I think for the sake of time, we have one more minute. Was there any final question you have, or?
I guess I can throw it at one person. I guess, Dana, what questions would you have for the search firm that's going to find your replacement?
Oh, boy. Let's see what we got left in here. I think it's important to the commission, I guess I'll just paraphrase it, if you've hired other managers in Michigan and maybe what that retention rate would be.
So plenty of executives. In my proposal, I did have that search from the city of Flint, but I have not done a city manager search in the city of Flint. I had Cass County reach out. I couldn't tell you what the retention rate. My retention rates in the private industry are more than 95%. And when you talk to a regular business that their their success rates of getting a candidate to stick for 6 months or a year is somewhere around like 53%.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We do appreciate you coming in. We will have a decision tonight, so we're anticipated to vote, and so thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Yep. All right, our next candidate interviews from Yo and Yo, and are they?
Yeah, I'm getting in there right now. All right,
Is
all
it-
right, they're ready. So are you guys ready? I'm gonna admit them. This one's virtual, yeah, we gotta change something up. Yeah, so if you're talking, that is a live microphone.
Do we have? Can we see them, or are they just see? Oh yeah, good. Okay. All right. Is this Amy?
Hello.
Hi. Welcome.
Hello. Great. Hi. Great to
Yeah.
see you all.
Yeah, glad you could join us. So what we're doing is we're giving you opportunity to first kind of go over your proposal quickly. We have kind of a limited time, so we're shooting to be done by 6:20, so 25, well, a little less than 25 minutes now. But so you can go over your proposal, and then we have a list of questions. We're going to try to get us through as many as possible, and so we're going to go with that. So go ahead, Amy, if you want to introduce yourself and talk about your proposal.
Great. And if it's all right, I put together a presentation to kind of some of the sites to make it a little more interesting since you already have the proposal in front of you. So if it's all right, I'm going to go ahead and see if I get lucky on technology and can share my screen right now.
All right, we're cheering for you.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
The proposal. All right. Great. So I want to touch on a little bit about myself and my firm, talk about some of the work we've done, our approach, results, and then definitely leave lots of time for, because I know you've got a jam-packed agenda tonight. So we are Yo and Yo HR Advisory Solutions. I'm Amy Sell. I founded Sell Talent, a HR consulting firm, about 11 years ago, and then we were acquired by Yo and Yo last year. I did my first city manager search in 2018, so I've been working with municipalities for about 8 years now. My parents were both elected officials, and I've worked in state government and just have tremendous respect and appreciation for everything you all do, keeping our communities in Michigan thriving. We've done quite a bit of search work for municipal leaders. We've also been a fractional HR provider for a lot of different communities in Michigan. We've also done other recruiting and compensation work. So we love supporting Michigan communities. I want to talk about our approach to recruiting city managers. Key steps are making sure everybody is on the same page in what you are looking for, which is super, super important. Then once we understand that target, we extensively market and go after candidates that might not be in the market as well. We thoroughly assess the candidates. We support the interviewing process as well as negotiating and onboarding. That key component of alignment is so important. So we will have individual one-on-one stakeholders with everybody in the room right there, as well as other key stakeholders, department leaders. We can even do community surveys, because the more information that we have and the more inclusive that the process is, the better in terms of honing in on the experiences, leadership behaviors, communication styles that an ideal city manager will have for you. We also then summarize this information and provide it to you along with our assessment plan before launching the search. And this is kind of what we put together. I call it like a search criteria list where we understand those different attributes, and then we define, based on everyone's input, what it looks like in terms of those must-have qualities as well as what the ideal candidate would have. So that way we are all on the same page and aligned on what a successful candidate would look like. Then we go to work and market and promote. We definitely use job boards and network and use social media. We have a monthly municipal newsletter that we send out to promote the opportunities. But what is a little unique is we actually have a large recruiting team, and 4 of our recruiters have LinkedIn recruiter licenses. So we go after candidates that have the right skills and experiences to make sure that we have a robust candidate pool for you. Some recent search results in terms of the number of applicants presented and interviewed is listed here. Our goal is to find 7 to 10 highly qualified candidates for you to select from, and then for you to make sure that you've got lots of good options. We put together on the marketing side also brochures and promote the community. And then one thing that I think also sets us apart is how detailed we assess the candidates and how much information we give to you to review the candidates before you decide who to interview. Obviously, we will review the resume. We will ask them to complete a short survey that will include information about why they're interested in the role, what transferable skills they have, etc. We also have a video interview with 10 questions that they can answer. We will also do a phone interview to go through career history and to confirm compensation expectations. We will do reference checks, background checks, and do a cyber review. And all of the information that we compile is shared with you via a portal so that you can review it ahead of time before deciding who to bring in to interview. For that interviewing process, we will make sure that we will go through, kind of facilitate on-site interviews with the group. Sometimes we will also do community panels. We will do staff interview panels, and then we will assess with the compilation of information and help guide the process during commission meetings. We will also provide negotiating support if needed. Sometimes the attorney does it, or if there's a point person, but we're happy to support that process in any way that we can. We have, here's just kind of a summary of the different components that we include between the community survey, individual intake, interviews, posting the job all over the place. Those detailed assessment steps will help support a press release, the community reception, providing interview questions and training. And then we also want to make sure that your city manager, after going through all this work, is as successful as possible. So we will provide detailed support during that onboarding and have an onboarding transition plan, and then also provide a 360-degree feedback with department heads and the commission to make sure that any issues that are identified are addressed sooner, and later we nip things in the bud. And then there's also a 1-year guarantee. Here's kind of a summary of what the timeline looks like. It's generally about 2 to 3 weeks to plan and make sure we're aligned on what success looks like. Then we spent 4 weeks recruiting. In parallel, we are assessing candidates between weeks 4 and 9. And then the selection process will, be a week usually, and then we try to schedule the interviews right after that. And we identify and nail down the timeline during the planning phase, and we will communicate it to the candidates so that they can reserve the dates, so that process moves as smoothly as possible. Because once someone is in a search, they're often in a search with other communities, and we don't want to lose them. So a few things summarizing why our communities have been excited to partner with us. It's a very thorough process, as I've mentioned. There's no surprises pricing, everything's included. We have a large Michigan-based team, and we work as a team, so there's multiple people working on a search. It takes us around 200 to 300 hours to do an engagement, and so we need a lot of people working on the team. Again, we aggressively go after candidates that aren't in the market. and include lots of success factors afterwards. And again, we're obviously, Yo and Yo has been in the Tri-City area since its founding, and very excited about, the opportunity to be here tonight. So
All right,
with
wonderful.
that, happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. We have a list of 21. I don't think we're going to get through many, but we're going to try our best. Commissioner Koch will lead
Point
us
of
off.
order, if we feel like they answered the question, can we skip it?
We could skip it. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I do think you answered a lot of the questions. The one I have for you is walk us through a retained executive search you led end to end.
Yeah, so the first thing that we would do is set up the one-on-one interviews with all of you as well as other key stakeholders. And we do it one-on-one because we want everybody's opinion to be direct and as honest as possible and not overshadowed by, kind of folks that might be more talkative or less talkative. So we really feel like that getting that insight is important. Then we put together that talent rubric, which I described, where there's a list of criteria that also defines the must-have and ideal qualities. We will come and I will be the point person. So I would come to a commission meeting to review it with you. You would get it in advance in your, agenda packet, where we'd review the criteria list as well as the marketing and assessment materials in a commission meeting. And then after, it's approved, then we would launch the search. We would have an active job posting for about 4 weeks. We close the search on a Sunday evening because we want people to have the time over the weekend to apply. Then we're kind of assessing candidates, doing all those steps that I mentioned to you during those 4 weeks. But then we have crunch week after the applicants are due on that Sunday. We are getting everything ready, reviewed, and then on that Friday following, we would share a Google link, so you would all be able to go in via a portal, so you wouldn't have possession of the documents, but you could review them, click on the different elements, look at the videos, and then I would facilitate usually a meeting in closed session. I would come to the following commission meeting about a week later, depending on the meeting schedule, where I would ask you which candidates you were interested in moving forward to bring on site. Then we would kind of, during our planning meeting, we would decide exactly what that would look like in terms of the day of the week, and if it's a staff panel and a community reception, et cetera. But we would facilitate those logistics on site. And then we would also attend the next meeting where you would deliberate the candidates, and because that would need to be in a public meeting. So we would be there to facilitate the process and to carry out any next steps.
Right. How do you handle confidentiality and sensitive replacements, and how do you manage conflicts of interest?
I didn't quite catch that. Was that, how do I handle compensation?
Confidentiality.
Oh, confidentiality. Yeah. So we respect confidentiality, which is afforded to people under the Open Meetings Act to review an application in a closed session. So we respect that until you all decide that you want to interview a candidate. We would then confirm that that candidate wants to move forward. And at that part, it's part of a public process.
Thank you for being here. Can you describe a time when your recommended candidate failed and why?
Well, we do not recommend one candidate. So our aim is to provide 7 to 10 qualified candidates that we feel would do a good job. And then we help facilitate the process so that you all get the information you need to determine which candidate is the best fit for your community.
Thank you. What trends are impacting leadership hiring in this sector?
Yeah, the great question. There are a few of them. I mean, I would say one is around demographics. The pool has been declining as funding for City government gets squeezed. A lot of assistant city manager positions have been eliminated, so there isn't as much of a training ground. Also, with the political dynamics, people are in these positions for short tenures, and there's a lot of turnover. Getting good, qualified city manager talent that has the success to be successful, it's competitive. So that's why we're seeing, significant salaries going up rapidly, because when a community finds someone very solid, they need to try to retain that person, and we're seeing some significant compensation upward pressure in that direction as well as a trend.
How do public sector searches differ from private sector mandates?
And so the differences between private sector and public sector is really that public process where candidates need to be interviewed in public, the deliberations need to be done in public, and so that's one big difference is the process. There's different requirements there. Another, I would say, difference is that you are working with a group of elected officials that often have different priorities and focus areas. And so aligning all of the elected officials on what a successful candidate could look like is different than the CEO searches and nonprofit executive searches that I've done as well.
Thank you.
Before I ask this question, I just want to state I have another question. It'd be question 6, but I think she answered that thoroughly. Would we agree with that? Okay. So the question I have for you is, what strategies do you use to diversify executive candidate pools?
So I think the question was, what do I do to diversify the candidate pool? And that is, okay. So that is where we do targeted outreach, asking candidates to apply that might not have applied directly, because we want to do everything we can to have a pool that reflects the community. Other things that we do are we try to make the job posting as inclusive as possible. So we eliminate areas such as, we need 10 years of experience in this and 15 years in that. Unless there's a charter requirement on an aspect, we try to be as inviting as possible, because we have seen through our work that oftentimes women and people of color are less confident in applying to positions. And so we want to keep the bar as low as possible in terms of requirements, so that we don't kind of make people feel like they're not welcome to apply to a position.
Thank you.
I know you spoke with a bit about how you're seeking out qualified candidates, but are there particular places that you will post the job posting that you didn't already mention?
Yeah. The big ones are in Michigan, the Michigan Municipal League. The ICMA is another great source of national candidates. Strategic Government Resources has a distribution list that's been successful. LinkedIn is key for most positions, but within the Michigan community, MML is a great source of applying. And I would say if a search firm applies to, utilizes those services, those aspects, you're going to get about 90% overlap in the candidates. So they are very effective at getting a good pool of candidates for you.
Many residents would like the new city manager to live within the city limits. While we know that we cannot require this under the law, what would you do to address this community concern and preference?
Well, because it is not it's not able to be enforced, our approach on it is to go, find, if that comes, that'll kind of go through the alignment process. So we would do more targeted outreach to local candidates where we could. And then we also might encourage a relocation allowance to be considered. And that's one way that you can kind of motivate and incentivize that is not illegal.
Thank you.
How soon could you have the job posting ready to go live on the city website?
In about 3 to 4 weeks. I do like to do that alignment piece. I really feel it's important and that everybody gets a voice. So I would want to be able to do that, but it could be done even more. We could shorten it to even a survey and get the, email, the phone meetings done pretty quickly. So, but I would say, 3-ish weeks would be likely, because we'd also need to get a meeting to have everybody review it, and I need to kind of put together the timeline based on your meeting schedules too.
All right, thank you. I'm going to jump to 13. So what is a reasonable salary range, depending on experience, for the city manager in the city our size, and what kind of data do you have access to for salaries of similar municipalities?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially because positions have been bumping up significantly in certain communities. So I would say if you had a salary range of 170 to 190, that would give you a nice selection of high quality candidates that would not want to move for something less than that. I have had communities that wanted to be in that, 140 to 150 range, and we didn't get the level of candidates that they wanted for, a good community. So.
Thank you. So we got one more, Commissioner Coakley.
Let me answer that.
Would you recommend keeping the current city manager in place under a temporary contract until the new city manager is established?
Yes.
Well, that made it go real quick. All right. So, is there, just for the sake of time, we have just a couple more minutes, but are there any more specific, or do you have one more question?
Just because I know it's the same name. Is your organization and the Yo and Yo accounting firm, are you technically separate entities still, or is this one big group now?
We are separate entities, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, that was a good question. Thank you. So any additional follow-up questions of us as a group?
Wow, this is a pleasure to be able to ask some questions of you. Have you thought about some of those must-have qualities that you are seeking at this point?
I think we don't have a full list, but I think commissioners have thought of those, and so I would hopeful we'll be able to generate a full list in a short manner.
Excellent.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much. We will be making a decision tonight, so we will know hopefully by not past midnight. So,
Okay.
depending how
Well, good luck with
this
all the
group goes.
interviews.
Okay. So, thank you. I appreciate it, and we'll hopefully.
welcome.
Yep. See you soon. All right.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Have
thank
a
you.
great night.
Yep. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Oh, they're here. Next one's in here. Okay.
Yes, and it should be the trainable.
Somewhere downstate.
Rochester.
it's still coming through, I think. If you want to start
Yeah, yeah.
talking, I mean, you can do that, and then I'll just pull it up while you're talking. How's that?
Oh, yeah, we got PowerPoints. Okay, perfect. All right, yeah, so welcome, and we'll turn the floor over to you, but we obviously we'll give a few more minutes, but we have a tight time frame, so we are shooting for about 25 minutes for you to kind of give your overall presentation, and then there'll be a Q&A or a question kind of an answer period, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. Well, first, thank you very much for having me this evening, and appreciate the opportunity to present to you this beautiful evening in this beautiful building. So, Vitrano Consulting is our firm, and we're proud to present this executive search for you for the city of Bay City. Next slide, please. So, we're an independent consulting firm. We only do public projects. We specialize in classification, compensation, executive search, staffing, and organizational reviews. And really, my focus has been for the last 10 years to build those partnerships with cities. Bay City's proposal or proposed form request was really thorough, and we had an opportunity to present all of our projects for the last 36 months. And if you look at that list, a lot of the clients come back to us for something. So usually we get in with a city, and they'll want us to do the search, and then they'll want us to do some goals and objectives. It's really about building trust with the communities that we work with. I'm an extremely small firm. So those few cities that we do work with, we build deep relationships with, and that's what we pride ourselves on.
Can I have you grab the microphone to talk into too, because we are live streaming, so that way it'll be on there.
Next slide, please.
It doesn't amplify, but it does.
Okay.
All right. It's on. I think he hit it, didn't you?
Green, yeah.
Yeah.
Green.
Yep.
Okay. I can use a mic. So I've been a consultant for 10 years. Before that, I was a city manager for 17 years. In my consulting services, I've done over 100 projects and over 50 executive searches, including several for city manager. 3 up in the corner, Ferndale, East Point, and Royal Oak would be communities that I would consider similar in some ways. Each community is very unique. Bay City's location is very unique. Your population is around the same as East Point, but you have qualities and differences, and we really take that into account. But this size city, I'm very comfortable working with in terms of city manager search. Also, in the past 10 years, I've worked for a university in their leadership and management degree program, where I've managed that program for several years. While manager, I was most recently here in Michigan, in the city of Rochester, a couple of cities in Pennsylvania prior to that. Next slide, please. So I really pride myself as being a strategic partner for the city. And the 3 areas that I just mentioned, I think that university experience helps me with facilitation and relationship building. The city manager experience obviously helps me understand the nuts and bolts of what's going on in a community. And that third piece of consulting with over 100 different communities in the state of Michigan allows me to really bring those external experiences into my projects. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to walk through the phases. All of you have, actually very impressed with the binders in front of most of you, have my presentation in terms of the scope of work. So I'll go through this relatively quickly. I'm sure you've reviewed it. Our first phase is we meet individually with the city commissioners, as well as any department heads that are critical for the search. We will also do group interviews for any group that you choose in your community, as well as citywide surveys, both to the public and to your internal employees, to try and get an understanding. We think that an opportunity to recruit a city manager isn't just about soliciting their input for the brochure, which is great. It's about engaging them and involving them in this exciting new opportunity you have as a community. You'll significantly miss your last city manager, but this is an opportunity to engage, and we really take it as that. It's a reason to engage your public. It's a reason to engage your employees. We will do a statewide and national search, as well as direct candidate engagement. You probably heard from the other consulting firms. LinkedIn is a really powerful source that we're using right now, particularly on the direct message feature for folks that don't know they're looking but may be interested. We spend a lot of time in that area. Next slide, please. We will provide you a comprehensive candidate report. You did post your bid slides of all the firms that bid. And one thing that I encourage you to make sure that your firms are experienced in the public sector. We'll walk you through all the OMA obligations that you have as a commission as you look for your next city manager. We pride ourselves in knowing the Michigan law. We'll again come back for that stakeholder engagement. Once after a closed session, the commission selects the candidates they're interested to bring into the community. We'll again do a whole community outreach. We'll bring them in. We'll have panels with department heads. Actually, I could describe all the things we do. We will really work with the commission to say what's best for your community. Is it an evening meet and greet? Is this a Saturday meet and greet? Do you want the candidates to tour the community? Whatever piece that looks like, that's what we're going to implement. And we'll bring several suggestions from our other searches, but we'll let you drive and tell us how to best represent your community fairly and appropriately so the marriage works between the two parties. We'll facilitate the interviews and then finally assist with the employment agreement to the extent the city would like us to. And then we do have a guarantee that I'll touch on. So what makes us a little bit different? As a former city manager and now recruiting for 10 years, I'm really proud of the personal network that I have here in our state and beyond. I've worked with communities, particularly in the Chicago suburbs, where we are able to bring folks back to Michigan that start with us here and then go somewhere else. And we'll do a national search, but I'm a Michigan guy. I'm really proud of the personal network I have that I'll be contacting on your behalf. We think we do stakeholder engagement better than most. We think we prioritize it above a lot of parts of the other a lot of the other phases of the recruitment. We think it's the most critical part that we can play a role for your community. Honestly, most of the firms are probably going to get a lot of the same candidates. You're going to post at ICMA site, you're going to post on MML, you're going to get the candidates. We like to pride ourselves that it's the stakeholder engagement that sets us apart. Finally, we like to say that our city and our candidates have an excellent experience. Most of my candidates, if you talk to them, which I think is super important, we want them to leave whether they're your city manager, well, stay if they're your city manager, leave if they're not your city manager to go and say, that was a really good experience we had in Bay City, because that reputation will go with them. And I think you need to rely on your consultant to help build that, because it's critical that this be a positive experience for everyone engaged. Next slide. We do have a 12-month guarantee. We'll be with you for 12 months. If that means the first round of candidates, the batch we bring in that closed session, you say, thanks, but there's nobody here that we think is our fit, we'll go and do that again. If your manager is placed and they leave for any reason, if they're not with you at that 12-month mark, we'll do the search again for no professional fees. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen, and when it does, we stay with you through that process. Next slide. Our fee is $15,500 lump sum. For the professional consulting fee, there's a couple pieces that are reimbursable too, including the advertisement. And I'll be frank, I saw the bid list, we're on the low side. That's not why you pick us. You pick us because we're the best firm for you in a match to find you the best city manager. We don't have much overhead. We're not charging and implementing overhead into our pricing because we're a small firm. But I think we're also the best one you have on your list in terms of engaging candidates, engaging the community, and finding a right fit for our partners. Next slide. This is just a repeat of what you have in your binder, and this is where I was supposed to mention. You could see a lot of the same names in the 36-month history that you had requested. The other piece we like to say is, that's my last name. Like, we get engaged because this is who we are and what we do. We become partners with you throughout this process and hopefully well beyond. Next slide, please. Path for success, it starts with a commitment. You're going to commit to a firm, hopefully us. We're going to commit to you that we will do the premier job for your community. Again, I feel like if you had a little game where how many times is he going to say stakeholder engagement, you'd probably all win. Stakeholder engagement will be heavy. We'll do candidate outreach through the relationships we have and the standard advertising platforms. We're going to have clear communication and clear advice for the commission. We will take all feedback. We will act as your city manager would, act in your behalf in a way that makes you proud. And finally, we end with commitment. We have a 12-month guarantee, but it goes well beyond that, both formally and informally. I can say, I think without exception, all of my clients in some way or shape or form have reached out to me after the search was done, just to check in and how's it going both ways, me to them and them to me. Next slide. That's my quickish presentation. Felt like I was talking a little bit fast, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
No, that's good. We have 21 questions. We probably will not get through them all, but we're going to try our and you probably covered several of them. So we'll start with Commissioner Coakley with the first one.
Walk us through a retained executive search you led end to end.
A retained executive search that I led.
And yes, and then.
Oh, got it. I think of the recent ones, one that I'm really proud of is the city of Ferndale. They were coming off of a long-serving manager. I had done their prior search, so I had done a manager search about 6 years prior, and then I was doing their most recent one earlier last year. And I think what was unique about it is that they had some very clear desires for their city manager, and it wasn't going to just be an open pool. And I got that through the stakeholder feedback sessions, through the community sessions that we held. And then when we actually came to the interviews, there was 3 really highly qualified candidates, great interviews, but it became apparent that one really matched the stakeholder engagement lists that we put together. And it was quite an easy choice, even though they were really good candidates. And one of the other 2 probably could have been a really nice match for another client I had, but in this case, I pride myself that Ferndale not only brought me back, but I was really happy with the stakeholder engagement input that led to their selection.
All right. How do you handle confidentiality in sensitive replacements? And how do you manage conflicts of interest?
Okay, I'll take the first part. Confidentiality. It's always a balance between the public's right to know under OMA, the public's desire to know under their own curiosity, and the candidate's confidentiality and desire to not have their current employer know that they're looking. It's a very interesting profession that we have. During the all candidates, when they fill out their application, they have an opportunity to mark whether they'd like confidentiality or not. It's a really important thing in the OMA that requires them to request it. So we do that through the application phase. Then they will maintain that confidentiality straight through your closed session. So the candidates maintain it into your closed session. When we come out of closed session and you tell me, James, we like candidates 1, 7, 12, and 13, then at that moment, those candidates I will ask, do you accept the interview? All confidentiality is done for those 3 candidates or how many ever you choose, and we move forward in all public and open process after that. In terms of conflict of interest, I'm not sure where they would come in terms of, can you give me an example or clarification?
I guess just asking them if they do business with the Bay City Bridge Partners, if I can speak from another person that they...
So, if we would ask candidates to disclose their other interests in your community or other communities, not just in their resume, but in personal questions, do they have any business interests that could conflict with the city manager appointment? We view city management as a full-time gig, and we wouldn't expect that they have other opportunities that they're exploring. So, haven't had it, but I think I would have the background information in order to clarify any conflicts.
Thank you for being here this evening. Can you describe a time when one of the candidates you presented or recommended failed and why?
Sure. A search, and I'm not going to call it necessarily a failure, but a search that we did have to redo that I was on was actually up here at the Saginaw Midland Water Authority. I know I got that second half of that name wrong, and I apologize. In 2019, I led the search for that general manager's position. And the person served a very short time. They were from the city of Midland, and they ultimately returned to the city of Midland after a very short stint with the Water Authority. Then the second place candidate, we ultimately did place there, and he's been there now for 6 years. So that's where the guarantee comes in, and you never want to exercise the guarantee, but sometimes there just isn't a fit, or the opportunity in this case in Midland was so good that the individual left, and now Dan's been there for 6 years, and I'm real proud of that search.
Thank you. What trends are impacting leadership hiring in this sector?
I think, with all respect to the elected officials in this room, and I'm sure Bay City has the best elected officials that are really easy to work with on all days and all occasions. But I think one of the trends that we're seeing is that if managers like where they are and they have a good relationship with their council, it doesn't matter if I suggest a position that pays $20,000 more or $30,000 more. Their number one thing that I'm seeing in the market is if they have a good relationship with their elected officials, they're not leaving for $30,000 even. And when I started this 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, I could recruit pretty easy sometimes by dollars. Managers today are really valuing their relationships with their council, which makes our job, my job in particular in this case, harder, because you have to convince them that the relationship they're going to have with this new place is going to be as good, if not better, than the one they have, as opposed to chasing the dollars.
How do public sector searches differ from private sector mandates?
It's a hard question for me because I've never done a private sector search. I've never worked in the private sector other than my own business, which I consider a public sector, even though it's my little LLC. I think the most important thing, at least from my perception, is one, OMA is a serious thing that you have to know and follow when you're going through a public manager search. Two, the engagement of the public and the engagement of the employees, where I'm imagining if I was doing a private sector CEO search, those would not necessarily be as important. And I think that the third item is just the publicness on the candidate side, especially if you're going to recruit. And I encourage all my public sector entities to recruit from the private too, to see what's there, at least to get them in the pool and you can evaluate. But I need to be able to explain to them, this is like no hiring practice you've ever been through. If you say yes, it will be in the paper, and they will also know how much you're going to get paid. If you're not comfortable with that, then please, don't move forward with it. So I think that's just my perception, and those three areas makes it different.
Thank you.
So my question is, how do you manage expectations of city commission members?
Oh, I love that question. Well, I have 17 years of managing city councils, in your case, commissions, expectations. I hope during this process you heard me not promise anything. I didn't promise you how many candidates you were going to have. I didn't promise you how many you're going to come out of closed session with. I didn't necessarily compare your search directly to candidates that I pulled to other searches. I can't promise those things. I try to be very, very particular in the words I use, especially in a public meeting where everything I say I must be able to validate. And I think that just comes with the city manager profession. I think when we have one-on-one conversations, so the first thing I would do is have one-on-one conversations with every commissioner. That's where I could start to understand the expectations so that I can begin to manage them. And then as we get the candidate pool, you'll have reporting from me that that I'm trying to meet those expectations without ever overselling what I can or can't do to make this a perfect fit for you.
What strategies will you use to diversify the candidate pool?
Thank you for that. I think it starts with knowing the places to post the advertisement. We've got a large list of opportunities in terms of where to place the ad, including places that target individuals who are Black city managers, women city managers, veteran city managers, whatever diversity pieces that is important to the city. Now, it gets expensive to advertise in all of those specialized areas or publications, and that's why that's a fee that I have external, because you'll get a list and you'll get to choose which ones you want to advertise to along with pricing. So it starts with the advertising. I also think it starts with again, I said earlier, it's LinkedIn that is often going to be the pull in this case, not necessarily advertising in the publications. And I think intentionally diversifying through LinkedIn, using search criteria that I have done for other clients where you're partnering a couple different search terms, not just city manager, because my network might be just my network and it may look a whole lot like me. But if I can partner those search terms when I'm looking for city managers, assistant city managers, department heads in other communities, often I can increase the diversity in the pool.
I feel like you touched on a great deal of the question I had, so I'm going to jump to number 9. It says, many residents would like the new city manager to live within the city limits. While we know that we cannot require this under the law, what could you do to address this community concern and preference?
Sure. Some communities choose to incent through pay or moving expenses or some other incentive. The Constitution says you can't require, but it doesn't say you can't, I was going to use a word that I shouldn't use at a public meeting, incent them to come to your community and live in your community. I also would I appreciate and recognize the residents' desire for that. I'd also ask them to keep an open mind. I managed 3 communities, 2 I lived in, 1 I didn't. I believe I managed all 3 in the same way. Sometimes I was raising my own taxes, and sometimes as a professional I was raising those around me, but wasn't living in the community. And I would really just ask the commission and the citizens to keep an open mind in terms of that. But if it is a pressing need, then the only suggestion I really have is to incent it for the candidates. You can also target out-of-area candidates as a priority. Tends to be if you target those out-of-area candidates, they have to come here, and then it's easier to incent them to choose to live in the community. But again, your pool, you don't want to artificially constrain your pool in any way at the outset. As you come back on the back end and choose your candidates for interview, maybe these are conversations we have about the candidates, but I'd encourage folks to keep an open mind.
Thank you.
How soon could you have the job posting ready to go live on the city website?
I would say about 10 days from award of contract. And I'll distinct this in 2 different ways. There's the posting, which is the 1-page summary, and then there's the recruitment brochure. We can quickly get to the posting, but it would take a little more time to get to that recruitment brochure, which is part of the process, and we would then supplement the posting with the recruitment brochure. Recruitment brochure can't be produced until I have more conversations with stakeholders, but we could quickly turn around a posting with the cooperation of the city, as long as the city is empowering its city manager or HR director to approve the list of advertisements and approve the 1-page posting, assuming you have your wage range set and all of your other pieces that are ready to be produced.
Perfect. And I have the last question. What is a reasonable salary range, depending on experience, for a city manager in the city of our size? And then what access to data of salaries of similar sized municipalities do you use?
Thank you. I'm not going to answer the first question. That is for your community to decide. What I will do, though, is do a mini compensation study as part of the endeavor that we go through together. So we would agree on comparable cities. I would prepare a list of comparable cities based on ability to pay, population, and location. And then I would reach out to those cities. I would get you their wage ranges. You would review, and then you would tell me what the right range is. That would delay your posting. Because I would assume I would come back to a commission meeting probably, and we would have a discussion of that mini report. But I would lead that, and it would be included in the fee. I do it for many of the communities that I do searches for.
All right, perfect. Because of time, I think that was it. Do you have any specific questions or one question? And
I respect the time that you provided me. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to be in person with you. Certainly, if anyone has questions following up, all of my contact information is in all the material that you've received. Thank you again.
thank you so much. All right, we're going to see our next. We're off. Thank you.
While we were sitting here, the next presenter declined the invitation, so I think I'm gonna just verify that with them real quick. Text them.
Easy to rate that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they do decline, we'll take a short recess until the next time is up. I suppose. Yeah. No, well, you know.
You guys must have put a heck of a presentation on.
Is it the next one in the book, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be the next one in the book. Thank you. Oh, and we are going to make a decision tonight.
Yeah.
It's tempting. But you got a lot, and I don't want to hear what the other. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Illinois, I think. That's the guy that isn't here. I think it says Illinois.
Yeah, Bolingbroke.
Bolingbroke, yeah.
I just it's very strange that you do that like the day of.
Did you just like decline the team's invite? Or?
Yeah, they did it while we were sitting here.
Oh,
Oh.
I guess they were watching the competition.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll say it on the record just for clarification. I want to remind the public that we gave these companies 2 business days to cobble together a opportunity to come here. So use that as you may for your determination of what they actually do, because 2 days for a group, especially the ones that are out of state, is very quick to figure something out, even with modern technology.
They did accept it originally, though. Right? Yeah. Okay.
I just text them.
Yep, she
so
sent
yeah.
a message. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if anyone else is bring the next one up if they're ready.
I mean,
Up to you.
that's not an issue. If they, we'll give them a couple more minutes. If they don't respond, we could. Because we'd have to probably contact and reach out to the MGT. That would be online also.
The rest of them are all online, but I do have their cell phone numbers, so I could.
I don't think people would be opposed to that.
Because it is 6:49 and it was at 6:45 or 6:50 now. So I can ask the next group real quick.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's just move on. That was easy.
Are we gonna allow them in if they?
Yeah, yeah.
I heard about this.
yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, well, take it, why don't we just take it until we wait to hear back? I guess take a 5-minute recess and then we'll come back in.
Joe, we want to turn that mic off, right? Because that's a hot mic. Yeah. I got it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we got to.
MGT, yes, MGT.
Want to turn that mic on for me, Commissioner Tenney?
Right there. Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, hello, welcome, welcome. We appreciate you hopping on with us just a little bit early. One of our other interviewees has declined to interview, so we bumped up things a little bit, so thank you.
Yeah, and my colleague Ashley Eckles should be joining us shortly too. I sent her a text, but we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, you're prepared to go forward then. Okay, well, great. Well, basically, we're giving you the opportunity to kind of go over your proposal to us, and then after that, we'll have a section of Q&A. We do have about 21 questions. We won't make them through them all. It's a lot of questions, but so we have about 25 minutes. We'll We'll call it just about 25 after 7 for us to finish up with.
All right, great. Is it possible for me to share a screen? We do have a short presentation
Absolutely.
here. I'll get started, and then I know that Ashley will be joining us. Okay, well, great. Well, again, thank you for having us this evening. My name is Charlene Stevens. I'm Vice President of Human Capital Solutions. I lead our executive recruitment process. I've been with the firm, just by way of background, since 2019, back when it was GovHR. Before that, I had a 20-some-year career in local government. I'm personally based out of the Twin Cities Metro, where I finished up my local government career, but had experience working in Pennsylvania and Kansas as well, and have conducted a number of recruitments nationwide. And then also joining me very shortly is Ashley Eckles, who's a senior consultant with our human capital team. And she also has a background in local government as well. And just a kind of quick overview of our firm. In addition to executive recruitment, MGT does a lot of other services for local government, such as strategy and cybersecurity, fiscal, and IT infrastructure. But in the human capital group, we also do, in addition to executive search, we do staffing, we do class and compensation studies. And the thing to know about the human capital team is really just about everybody in our team has had a career in local government, so we have a good understanding of the field. Team qualifications, and again, sharing, Yolanda Housey is a director, and she would also be the point lead on this. She is currently on a vacation, a pre-planned vacation, so she wasn't able to be here this evening, but she has over 20 years of municipal human resources experience and is an experienced executive recruiter. And then she'd be supported by Ashley, who is also an experienced recruiter and has almost a decade of local government experience. All of our team, I support all of our recruitments as the team leader. And then we also have administrative support that also support our recruitments as well. Just a little bit about our overall experience. We always say that when you hire our firm, you don't just get the 1 or 2 people that are working on your executive recruitment, you really get the benefit of our full firm. And we have 36 recruiters that are located across the country. We've done over 1,500 recruitments in about 46 states over the last decade. So we're very experienced in the local government executive recruitment field. I want to share just a little bit. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we do also have experience in the state of Michigan. So we do know the state of Michigan as well. And you can see again, kind of further, and some of these are communities that we've also done work in class and comp and some other areas as well, but we are well versed in Michigan recruitments. And then want to just kind of walk through pretty quickly our recruitment process. We have a 6-step process, and we start by understanding, and we have a 6-step process, and then I'll kind of just go through those steps a little bit, and then we'll be able to answer questions as well. So we really start off first by getting to know the organization and learning your organization, and we do that through, one-to-one interviews with the governing body, key stakeholders, key department directors. That helps us understand the culture of the city, any challenges, opportunities, and what you're really looking for in your next city manager. All of that information is used to develop the recruitment materials, the job announcement, the brochure, and then also helps inform, frankly, the entire recruitment process, because we use that as we source candidates and identify candidates. We use that as we interview and screen candidates as well. In our candidate outreach and recruitment, I think what's important to know about our firm is that we don't just post a position and hope for candidates. We know that we have to actively be looking for candidates. And so we have some tools that help us do that, LinkedIn and some other ways that we can kind of source candidates. But also that goes back to that broad network that we have in local government, and in understanding who's out there, who might be looking, and more importantly, who might not be actively looking, but might be good candidates. And if the opportunity is placed in front of them and a conversation's had with them, may find themselves interested in the position. And then also we coordinate kind of the whole process for you. We try not to burden your HR team and your HR staff in that process. And so we work and we acknowledge and manage all the applications. We do the initial screening of applicants. Typically, in a city manager recruitment, we'll maybe find kind of 8 to 10 candidates that we think most likely align with your needs. Our recruiters conduct live video interviews with those candidates, so we understand more than just kind of what they look like on paper, but have a conversation with them to understand those skills. We do reference calls, we do internet and social media searches as well. We present those candidates and review the candidates with the governing body, allow you to select and facilitate your selection of candidates for initial kind of first round interviews and second round interviews. We're also doing additional reference checks, and then we conduct a full background on candidates that you identify for the finalists. And then kind of finally, we're available and we're there throughout the entire interview process, helping you facilitate that process, helping you with the scheduling of candidates, also helping develop the questions interview as well. And then once you've selected a candidate, we're certainly available and willing to help be that conduit and help facilitate the offer to the candidate and work with the city attorney as appropriate to get that contract finalized. Just a couple reasons, we think kind of it's important until our firm is that we really stay with you until you find a candidate. We also do offer a 1-year guarantee on our placements. And so if the candidate leaves for any reason during that search, we just have a caveat that they have to have had some onboarding and there has to have been a performance evaluation so that they were terminated in that 1 year. They were given, an opportunity to improve. But if those cases, we will come back and do the search again at no additional cost, it's just expenses. The reason we feel comfortable with that is on kind of over 1,500 some recruitments, only 3% of our recruitments have resulted in that extended or that guarantee. The things that we think make a search successful when we're partnering with the community is it really does need to be a partnership between MGT and Bay City. We work very collaboratively. We have our process, and as we talk to this evening, you'll find that we're very willing to collaborate with you and adjust where we need to adjust. We are known for our process, our approach, our network, our track record, and we're known for doing comprehensive candidate outreach. And we're also known for our communication. We really do communicate both with candidates and with the city throughout the process. We want to make sure that we are staying ahead of things. If there's problems, if we think there's not a strong candidate pool, we don't want to get to the end and surprise you with that information. So we communicate along the way. And I think also most importantly, we are really known for our commitment to the profession of local government management. As I said, many of the individuals that are working on recruitments and our firm and the primary individuals in our firm come from a local government background. We have a strong commitment to the profession. We have a strong commitment to public service, and that shows in our work and our engagement in the profession. And I know that was quick, but I also know that you've mentioned you had 21 questions or so that you want to get through, and so we wanted to give time for that as well. And of course, my colleague Ashley is here too, and is going to be helpful in answering those questions.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Evening. Walk us through a retained executive search you led end to end.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I had trouble hearing that.
Walk us through a retained executive search you led end to end.
Ashley, do you want to take and give kind of an example of a search that you have led?
Sure. Yeah, and the sound was breaking up a little bit on my end too, but in terms of executive searches that we have led, I'm currently working with the city of Kewanee, Illinois on the search for their city manager. That one is currently in progress. One of the ones that recently concluded that I led from start to finish was with the village of Lincolnshire, Illinois, and that was the search for their assistant village manager. It was a dual role for both their assistant village manager / community and economic development director. I also led the search for the Park Forest village manager. in Illinois, and Lake Geneva as well, their city administrator in Wisconsin. So I'm located in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. And so, primarily while we have consultants, as Charlene mentioned, that are located nationwide, both of us, have ample histories working in the Midwest region here.
And I would just say kind of all of those recruitments followed our general process of kind of starting with the stakeholder engagement with the governing body, developing the recruitment materials, soliciting the candidates, doing an initial screen of those candidates, and then facilitating the interview and selection process with the governing body.
All right, thank you. How do you handle confidentiality in sensitive replacements, and how do you manage conflicts of interest?
In terms of placements with prior candidates as a conflict of interest or a conflict of interest with the city?
Theoretically, with the city, or possibly both.
Yeah, certainly if we felt we had a conflict of interest with a candidate or such, we'll disclose that on the front end. There are certainly times where we've had candidates in prior searches, and we'll make that known that they were a candidate for us in a prior search. We work on behalf of the city, so we're not working on behalf of the candidates, but it's certainly kind of commonplace in executive recruitment that a candidate, particularly in a state or a region, if they're actively looking, they may appear in more than one search and such, and we'll give you that, that background and their experience. I think sometimes that can be helpful too, because we've seen them more than once, and so we actually sometimes know if they're consistent with those answers or how they've performed across that as well.
Thank you for being here this evening, or across the interwebs anyhow. Describe a time when your recommended or presented candidate failed and why.
In terms of failed to be selected, or just wasn't successful in terms of the placement, or either or both?
I mean, potentially both, but I think the focus is on one that didn't work out in a municipality that they were selected in.
Yeah, so we've had, like I said, in only about 3% of our searches have we had a candidate that hasn't completed kind of that 1 year, 2 year service and such. And so what we find in those cases is that there really maybe was a misalignment of how the candidate kind of presented, or what the governing body maybe indicated they were looking for, and the match. And so, that has happened to us. And so we've gone back, we've been able to redo those searches, and those have resulted in successful kind of second placements. I recently had one that I did in a kind of in a very high profile role, where the candidate actually accepted the position and started the onboarding process and withdrew, and then decided that it was not right, the fit was not right for them, and declined to kind of continue and be onboarded. And so that was a really difficult kind of one. It was very public at the time, but worked with the organization to kind of mitigate the circumstances of that. Actually went back to our candidate. It was so recent, in fact, that some of those candidates that we had previously reviewed and screened were still available. We approached them. We're very candid about the circumstances, really, with, again, being kind of appropriate with the candidates' kind of background and their reasons for withdrawing, and the organization. And we were we were able to really successfully complete that placement and such. And I think some of that had to do with candidates who still saw it as a very viable and attractive opportunity for themselves, and didn't let their ego maybe get in the way of being kind of the second choice. And so, kind of ended up actually with a better placement and a strong track record, and that candidate is very successful in that organization right now.
Thank you.
What trends are impacting leadership hiring in this sector?
Ashley, you want to start with that one?
When I think of trends for city management, recently actually I just attended the ILCMA City Conference, which is the state chapter for ICMA. I would say that all of us on the recruitment end are very heavily involved with networks such as that, so that we're staying on top of emerging trends. I think that one that a number of folks are looking at integrating is certainly AI, and really kind of what the future of the workforce looks like there. I will say that in terms of our process, it is all vetted by humans. We're proud of that fact. And so we really take a lot of pride in screening each and every, resume that comes through. One of our recruiters sets eyes on prior to moving them forward in the process. But certainly, I think there's a number of trends. It really depends on the individual community. I think a number of communities are struggling with a lot of aging infrastructure, at least with a number of the communities I've worked with. I know that some capital projects, that tends to be, there's a number of fiscal constraints. So generally speaking, some folks that have some really strong fiscal management background is, I think, something that I've seen that is, highly appealing to many of our clients. Same thing when it comes to economic development, having a strong background and being able to really tell the story of the community. Those are typically qualities that we oftentimes see.
Yeah, and then I would just say along that line too is, what we're seeing is probably what you're seeing also in Bay City is there are fewer people kind of entering public service. More people are exiting and kind of at the retirement stage of their career. It's something that's been kind of a challenge for the public sector for a number of years. We also expect that our recruitment pools are still impacted, I think, by housing prices, relocation. Those impact kind of recruitment pools as well.
How do public sector searches differ from private sector mandates?
Yeah, I guess I would say I've generally spent my career in the public sector, so I can't speak to a private sector search, but I would say I think based upon my career and the number of recruitments that we've done, I think one of the kind of very telling things in a public search is that it's public versus a private sector search or a private sector search. And so and particularly kind of Michigan is a very open meeting state as well. And so the kind of public vetting of candidates, candidates' names being out there, information being out there, that makes it a more challenging environment, and certainly is something that candidates that come from a private sector background may sometimes struggle with. We have seen candidates make a transition, but those can be things that kind of struggle with. And I think just that the very public nature of it and the way that you engage the public in a process, all of that. Now, I think that candidates that are experienced in the public sector know that, anticipate that, adjust to that. I myself was a candidate. Ashley's been a candidate. So we know how to adapt to those situations. I think we also know how to make sure that candidates are treated well in that process and such as too.
Thank you.
How do you manage expectations of city commission members?
Yeah, so that is something that we do all the time with all of our clients. It's just kind of I think part of it starts by the conversations we have with you is really trying to understand what you're looking for. And then we'll be respectful, but we'll be candid too with what we think, the marketplace will bring, particularly when we look at salary, compensation, anything like that. And we'll give you our best advice on those things as well to make you competitive. We do have a good understanding of the market. I think sometimes too, we find, in the public sector, I mentioned earlier that we do media searches on candidates. And I always say that, media searches aren't disqualifying on candidates, because we know that anybody in the public sector, you yourselves as elected officials, know that you have media on you as well. And so just being kind of open-minded to candidates, I think, is important. And I think understanding, sometimes that even if we don't have a large candidate pool of 40, 50, 60 candidates, but we have a quality pool of candidates that we're bringing forward, or you have 4 to 5 good finalists, that is a successful search. And so really kind of managing compensation expectations as well. And we do that on the end of candidates too, is making sure that we're managing expectations as well. And again, as a governing body, this, you work as a collective body. And so it's does have to be, when we put together recruitment materials and stuff, we're looking for themes. We have one-to-one conversations, but we are looking for the general themes of the organization, of the governing body versus kind of individual attributes.
What strategies do you use to diversify the candidate pool?
What sources do we use, or what approach do we use to diversify the candidate pool?
What strategies do you use to diversify the candidate pool?
Yeah, that's something that we're very committed to as an organization. And so we have some partnerships in place. We do work with I4X, which is the consulting arm of the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. We're very involved with them. We're also very involved with Local Government Hispanic Network. I myself have been involved in founding leadership organizations for women in public service. Ashley has been involved in Illinois with the Legacy Project, which also, so some of the, I think there's a commitment that we have kind of personally and professionally as a firm. Some of the other strategies is, I mentioned partnering with those organizations, but also advertising with those organizations. And so you have to kind of go to where the candidates are. And so making sure that we're putting the information out to where the candidates are, doing personal outreach for candidates. And when we're sourcing, really looking at diverse candidates. Also, really, that's Ashley mentioned earlier, kind of the human look at candidates and their resumes. And I think that's important. And it's important that we don't just get focused on candidates' titles in roles. I say that many candidates, women, individuals of color, may have come in through the side door into the profession, and they may not have kind of a traditional kind of trajectory of local government management experience. They may not have the title of assistant city manager, or they may have different kind of pathways that they take. That's how my career was, and opportunities. And so being open to that and really looking at the skill sets of candidates and they're bringing and the experiences they're bringing versus the titles and such, and that's part of the vetting process. Ashley, anything that you'd like to add there?
No, I think that you covered that well. I think that, again, we do a pretty good job of providing recommendations for job boards as well. Like Charlene mentioned, a number of those to really diversify and help to expand the candidate pool. So we handcraft a number of sources that we would recommend in terms of advertisements, and I think that that's a strong aid in that process.
Where will you post the job posting, and what will you do to seek out and encourage qualified individuals to apply?
Go ahead and take that one.
Yeah. So in terms of where to post the job posting, we would come up with a list for you in terms of recommended ad sources. And then that cost would be, per advertisement. So it would just be the actual cost of the advertisement. There wouldn't be any additional costs on our end, but we'll handle that posting for you. So we'll create a list of those that are recommended. Typically, LinkedIn is, again, one of our largest sources. So we do some heavy recruiting on LinkedIn in terms of outreach. We also utilize some other proprietary sources that really help us, again, kind of target the types of candidates in terms of the skill sets that you're looking for through other kind of third-party software, where we're really able to, I think, go far in terms of the candidate outreach that we do. But again, those ad sources we would provide and recommend to you. And so at this time, I don't want to speak prematurely to what those would be, but certainly I think that there's kind of a number of sources that our ad specialists put together that we would be able to recommend to you and for you to ultimately approve.
And some of those would include ICMA, obviously, is where most city managers are looking for jobs, Michigan Municipal League as well. We might look at some regional leagues too, just depending. And we do, even if you're looking for a candidate with Michigan experience, Michigan background, we always do recommend that you look nationally and advertise nationally, because you don't know that when a candidate is ready to come home, as I like to say. I finished my career in Minnesota, but I did not start my career in Minnesota. And there was a time 10, 15 years ago where I was actively looking for opportunities in Minnesota, and I was not in Minnesota. And so making sure that you're reaching those candidates that might want to come home is also important. And so we make sure that the advertising is, regional, but also broad.
Thank you.
How soon could you have the job posting ready to go on the city website?
Yeah, I mean, I think that depends on kind of when we start the recruitment. Typically, if you were to make a decision today, it takes maybe a week or two, probably a week, less than that, to get a contract in order and in place. Then our consultants are usually ready to go within that kind of next week. Hold a kickoff meeting with you, begin the stakeholder engagement, and then begin drafting the materials and such. And so typically, within kind of the time that we start the recruitment, we build out a schedule and a calendar for you, and the consultants meet with you on that. But then typically kind of it's about 2 weeks for us to do stakeholder engagement and to put together recruitment materials. I mean, and that assumes too that the city is responsive in the process and such. And so able to provide job descriptions, able to provide salary information, able to, kind of get those stakeholder meetings scheduled, particularly with the members of the council.
All right, we're kind of getting down on time, so this will be the last question. So what is a reasonable salary range, depending on experience, for a city manager in a city our size? And then do you have access to data of salaries of similar municipalities?
Yeah, I don't know that I could give you a kind of number or a ballpark right now, but we do have a class and compensation team, and we're able to do an analysis kind of the market conditions in Michigan, size of city, kind of location, and look across Michigan as well as nationally to give you kind of an estimated range and best practice once we've reviewed the job description and the qualifications.
All right, thank you. And then just to wrap up, any questions for us as a group?
I don't think that I have any questions. I've kind of done a little bit of research on the community, know that your current manager's retiring. I think you're kind of anticipating getting started or making a decision in the next, day or so on
Tonight.
a search firm. Is there kind of, I guess the question would be, is the time frame, what is your kind of ideal kind of time frame for hiring the next city manager when you'd like to have an offer made to a candidate?
Well, probably within the next probably the next 3 to 4 months, as soon as possible. I think, that's the goal, but we know the realistic time frame expectation is probably 3 to 4 months.
Yeah. We typically say 90 to 120 days from the time we start the search.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And we will be making a decision probably the next hour and a half. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We wish you the best.
All right, appreciate it.
No matter
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Yep. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I did text the next consultant, and he was running into the hotel to be able to. So he was in his car, so I told him no rush, it's fine. So it might be in a minute. So.
Person's on the way here.
No.
Just on the computer. They're wherever they're at.
Yeah, because this is 10 minutes earlier than he was scheduled. So.
That's strategic government resources.
That's the next one, yeah.
Yep.
I have a quick question. Just to be clear, NetSync is out, correct?
Sorry.
NetSync?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm taking it we can eliminate NetSync.
Nice job putting these books together.
We worked hard on these today. Did you see? Yeah, just, no, mute it. All right, there we go.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. Thanks for accommodating a little bit earlier. I know we were expecting you had a few more minutes, so we understand that you rushed
No worries,
in.
no worries. Am I up next, or I just?
Yep,
wanna
you
start
are
my
up
second
next, and
everybody?
we have you slated right now. So welcome. We appreciate you presenting this evening. And so the way we've been kind of going, we give each presenter an opportunity to kind of talk about their proposal to the city, and then we have a list of about 21 questions that we have not been able to get through. Most of those questions, we get through a chunk of them, and so it'll give us some insight on what you have to offer. So I will just turn it over to you to kind of give your proposal.
Sure, sure. And just so I'm clear, you have 21 questions after this?
Yeah, we get through about 10.
Yeah, I mean, we get through about half of the questions, so it just depends on.
All right. Well, yeah. I don't know how you're running ahead of schedule if you had that many questions for everybody.
Well, we had somebody
I
that
get it.
didn't show, so.
No. Thanks, Mayor and council members. I appreciate the opportunity. I know you've got a long night and a lot of presentations, but I'm honored to be here on behalf of Strategic Government Resources. The firm has been around for 25 years, exclusively dedicated to local governments. So we're staffed with people that have been in the profession. And myself, I was a manager for 30 years. I had the opportunity to work in Elgin, Illinois, the great city of Novi, Michigan. I was there for 14 years. And then I finished out in Pearland, Texas as a manager. And then I worked in Fort Worth. So after all that and a lot of council meetings, I decided I didn't necessarily want to go to night meetings every night for the rest of my life. And so I've been doing recruiting, and been a really good experience for me to be able to help cities and professionals stay in the business and not have to do all the work that you have to, frankly. So it's been a good fit for me. SGR is a full service local government firm, not only doing the executive recruitment, that's our bread and butter, but also leadership development, interim, and workshops for councils. And I think these things work together to give us a good base and experience for both exposure in finding candidates for the recruitment and keeping our fingers on the pulse of the industry. So throughout this work, what we really do believe is, getting a good group of candidates is critical. We have the best reach of any firm out there across the country for this very important decision. I'd encourage you to think about it in those terms as, you may get a decision like this, hopefully, with any luck, once in your term. And so it's so important. And you want a candidate, you deserve a candidate pool that would be the best fit for Bay City for the long haul. And that's what we can offer you. And to that end, SGR's got 38,000 subscribers. That gives us reach into the profession. People subscribe to our 10 and 10 for leadership lessons and postings, et we get about 1,000 visitors a month to our open recruitment. So the numbers are very strong for all of that and only get better. We've really leaned into LinkedIn for recruitment. We pay for the LinkedIn recruiter service. I've gotten a lot of good candidates between my contacts. I've got 10,000 personal contacts. I wish I would have invested in LinkedIn a long time ago, but and then SGR itself has 21,000 LinkedIn followers, which I don't think you'll see with other firms. So, I'm able to go in and find people that aren't looking, tell them why Bay City is a great opportunity, why they need to look at this, look at the profile, and have them apply for the job. Even it's not a passive effort by any stretch of the imagination. So just recently, in the last 30 days, we get about 28,000 job views to the total job board. And SGR offers us up for not only our postings to get that kind of number, but we also have other people and firms put their postings up there, which we offer as a service. A lot of our candidates come from direct outreach, not just the advertisements and the ICMA newsletter and the Michigan Municipal League and good stuff like that. So it is a relationship industry, and people know each other, and I think I've got a great network, as many of the people you'll hear from tonight do as well. We get great feedback, from the successes. I've been doing this for 2 years, and I think my efforts would mirror this. Recommendations from people that have been in the search would say vast majority would recommend us, and then candidates also very strong in polling surveys we've done. They would say that they would work with us or suggest us again. The process is very similar with any of the firms. It takes, I would come physically to get to know you, get to know your priorities, the opportunities there, so I can speak honestly and candidly to candidates about what Bay City offers and let them know what they're getting into. And so I think that's better for everybody. We would develop a very good profile brochure that tells candidates about the opportunity. We'd advertise that for a month, 4 weeks, and then we go into the phase of, I would score them. You would see all of the candidates, and they have the opportunity to pick semifinalists. Once we have those, about 10 of those or so, we would meet again, and then you'd winnow that down to the finalists that you want to bring in for interviews, 4 to 5, typically in Bay City for that. Our costing is inclusive. You won't see add-ons for other kinds of services. That includes the ad placements, that includes my 2 travels and expenses, includes the written questions, recorded video interviews for up to 15 semifinalists, reference checks, and then we also offer a 12-month guarantee, placement guarantee. If your selected candidate leaves within that first year, we do the search over again for only the advertising expenses. There'll be no extra professional fee on that. We've done a ton of work around the country. I just finished Battle Creek, Michigan. I did some work with Novi on their CFO search, and our executive recruitment vice president, Rebecca Fleury, is a former manager in Michigan, Battle Creek, and she would work with me, and we'd work the networks there in Michigan, but beyond that as well. So in sum, I think we offer a great proactive approach that's been well received. We would work with you on stakeholder engagement, the interviews that I would come and physically do. We'd offer nationwide search capabilities. Our firm is filled with practitioners who know local government and what it takes to be successful in local government. The whole objective is to find you the right leader and take whatever time and effort it takes to get to that point. And throughout this, we'll give you extensive vetting on candidates. So that is a whirlwind spiel and pitch for why we are the best firm to work with you, and I hope I get that opportunity. So any 20 questions or?
Yeah, we're gonna speed date here. Go ahead, Craig, Commissioner Coakley.
Walk us through a retained executive search you led end to end.
I'm sorry, one more time?
Walk us through a retained executive search you led end to end.
So the search after we get contracted would start with me coming to conduct the stakeholder interviews. For a city manager, I'd want to meet with you individually and find out what your priorities are, what you think about the organization as it currently stands, where you want it to be, and that would help me to develop that profile. I'd also ask to meet with senior staff. That's very important. Department heads, directors that have been there, and that this manager will be leading and working with. And also, if there's any community stakeholders, business contacts, school leaders, et cetera, anything and everything that would help me develop a good profile and presentation and be able to speak to candidates about this role. So, county, if that was on the table, not all the time city gets along with their counties, but I would offer that up. So I'm able to do that too. So, oh, sorry, I keep going on. Then we would advertise. We'd have that profile that you would sign off on and approve. I would go through recruiting or talking to candidates, getting people to apply and take those in. Once we have all those applications in, I would group them in A, B, C, but you would see them all. We'd go over the candidates. You would pick the semifinalists, call it 10, and then you'd get a bunch of material about those 10. And then after that, and you've had time to review that, we'd meet again and you'd select the 4 to 5 finalists you want to invite into town for interviews. And we would set those up for the typical in-person interviews with the council, but also, if you want me to set up community meetings, coffees, meet and greets, I would encourage you to think about and have opportunities for senior staff to meet with the finalists and get that feedback back and forth, and I'd provide that. And I'm always very careful to couch that we're not asking the directors to vote or rank people. We're asking them to give feedback that they want to give to the council for your decision. It's very important to state the obvious. That's your decision, not the department directors. And so we do all that as part of the inclusive pricing package. And then we would hopefully come to the consensus of finding the perfect candidate for Bay City for the next long term.
All right. How do you handle confidentiality in sensitive replacements, and how do you manage conflicts of interest?
I'm sorry, breaking up. The success of that candidates, how do I what? I'm sorry?
How do you handle confidentiality in sensitive replacements? How do you manage conflicts of interest?
Yeah, that one is actually picking you up.
Yeah, this one right here.
Those are, what you're doing there is live feed. So that one.
Okay, so let me try that one more time.
Yep.
How do you handle confidentiality in sensitive replacements? How do you handle conflicts of interest?
So confidentiality is, we would tell candidates generally that that's assured up through the finalist stage at a minimum. And we would make sure that that's maintained. It's a trust between us and you, and when we're sharing information for the candidates to maintain that. Usually at the finalist stage, particularly in Michigan, that has to, the interviews are held publicly, so we'd have to do it that way. And I would tell the finalists, hey, this is real, and this goes out. And I think you talked about conflict of interest too. And what's the context of that? I'm sorry.
Just like if they've had prior experience with you, or if they've, or for disclosures that they may have with the city or entities within the city, and how that could affect the search.
So, I'm sorry, still breaking up, but the conflicts of interest, I don't think, that if it's between us and the candidates, that typically has not been a problem. I haven't had any issues with that. We would, I think the openness and the disclosure of information throughout is critical. So, if there was any issues with conflicts of interest in terms of different approaches, we'd have to, we'll get that exposed and out there and talk about that.
Thank you for being here this evening. Describe a time when your recommended candidate failed and why.
So it's important to realize with our process, at least, I don't quote unquote recommend a candidate. I would give you my feedback on the grouping of candidates as they apply. I would give you things to think about and consider as we go forward. If I do have an opinion, if it gets to be that point, and I would, I try to be very careful that this is your decision and it's not my quote unquote recommendation. So I don't really get asked to make a recommendation. I don't think that's really my place is to do that. If there's somebody that I think that should be in the pool or be considered, I would tell you that. I think my job too is to give you my opinion, and you can take it for what it's worth. So if you choose not to go that route, there's zero offense, and I believe more strongly in your wisdom, honestly, about your situation, what your needs are, and so I really haven't had any quote unquote failed recommendations. It's been more, what I don't put myself as like I would have done this or I would have done that, because I'm not the council, and it's your choice, and you're the best people to make that, honestly.
Okay, thank you. What trends are impacting leadership hiring in this sector?
Fantastic question. First and foremost, I think it's competitive environment. I think places need to realize that you're selling yourselves just as much as the candidates are selling themselves. And so, people have choices, I mean, frankly. And, the top candidates they're probably in a good situation where they're at, or, they've got other opportunities. And so they're going to make a best choice for them as well. And so that's one factor, is like trying to make a place realize that and put their best foot forward for trying to get people to look at them. The other thing is the brass tacks of housing is expensive, and moving is expensive. I mean, I can speak personally. One of the factors for me is why I do recruiting is I've got a nice 2.5% mortgage. I'm not going to get that today. So people are it's a reality check that you have to make it worthwhile for somebody to move. And so, that just, and sometimes cities, counties have trouble, making that leap. But it's a long-term decision. I strongly believe a manager is going to impact decisions and work with you on strategies that have many more times multiples of their salary and benefits. And so I don't think it's a place to be penny wise and pound foolish. I'm not saying throw away money whatsoever, but you want the best person that's going to be with you for the longest time possible. And, so don't be afraid to make that investment for somebody. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
You weren't kidding about 21 questions.
How do public sector searches differ from private sector mandates?
So I could tell you from, my brother and sister have been in different professions. One's in banking, one's in aerospace. And we talk a little bit about, the private sector versus public. Obviously, anybody in my space, in our public worlds, we just realize that there's going to be newspaper articles about our past, where we've been, what's been going on. And so it's a very public sort of affair for a manager. But we kind of expect that. It's not a shock. There'll be a story when you select somebody that they're going to get paid X amount. And so, that's another shock. But, all those things, I think people in our business, and especially when they've reached the level that people are going to look at Bay City, or when they're looking at your slots, they're going to realize that, and they're not going to be put off by that. So I think and then the other piece of it is, we still haven't figured out in the public sector how to do recognition, our performance reviews and appraisals and all that good stuff. And so that's another difference, I think, between public and private that comes out in searches.
Okay, thanks.
How do you manage expectations of city commission members?
Good. I think it's a frank, honest conversation. If somebody on the commission were to say, for instance, like, I'm going to pay $45,000 for the next manager, I would say you're going to get what you paid for. It's those kinds of conversations about, there's no perfect candidate too. That comes up with some of my searches sometimes. I mean, people know that deep down, but if you're going to find like the flaws, you can find a flaw or why somebody's not the quote unquote perfect candidate. But, you know, it's that balancing act between the best one and somebody's going to be really great for you and not settling. Because I also don't want you to settle either. I mean, if there's somebody that comes before and you've got two choices and you're not really excited about either one of them, I've told people, let's put it back out again and try to do something different and see what we get. So, you know, I would encourage you and wouldn't recommend that you settle for anybody that you're not excited about. But I also would ask you to be realistic about, you know, people pick up bumps and bruises in this profession as they go along, and they're going to have some scars. So that's also going to be out there.
What strategies will you use to diversify the executive candidate pool?
Awesome. I'm glad you asked that. I think we've got a great track record because of our huge pool. That start gives a more than running start at that, because we've got great relationships with professional affinity groups, the Hispanic Network, the Black Public Administrators. We'll obviously advertise in those, but I think, you know, I've got enough connections and time in the business that I'll be able to reach into groups, a large group that's going to help you get that diverse pool to look from: men, women, minorities, everything. I'm very proud of the fact I did the Portland, Oregon search, very challenging, and it worked out. I'm not saying it's all because I'm so good, but I brought them. They had 4 finalists. That were 3 were African American and 1 was Asian American. So I think our track record shows, you know, that we can. That goes back to the deep pool. That is probably going to be start with Michigan borders, but needs to go beyond that for what you're looking for.
All right. I think we're actually need to end here. We have another minute left. So with that, do you have any other questions for us?
No, I mean, I'm familiar with Bay City, talk to people, and you've got a good rep in the state. And I think people are intrigued with the opportunity, looking forward to when SGR posts it and gets it going.
All right, wonderful. We appreciate your time, and we'll be making a decision tonight. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Take care. Good night.
Bye-bye. Hello, welcome.
Hello, how are you today?
Good. How about yourself?
Good, good. We got you at the end of the night.
Yes, yes. You are our final contestant, and so.
All right, we have to be inspiring.
All right, yeah. So welcome. We appreciate you being here tonight, and so what we've been doing is 25 minutes for each. Or,
20.
Oh, 20? Oh, okay, 20 minutes. Yes. So whatever the
Okay.
schedule said. So it looks like need to let somebody in. So. So then we'll let you go over your proposal first, and then we have a series of about 21 questions that we have not been getting through, but a series of questions that we'll ask, and then end when the appropriate time is done. So.
All right, well, we'll then try to get through this quickly because we want to give you time to ask your questions. A lot of what we're going to talk about is in the proposal, but we'll flesh it out a little bit. But first of all, introduce myself. My name is David Niemeyer with CPSHR, and I'll be the lead recruiter. Rachel, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Rachel with CPSHR, and I will be assisting Dave.
So we do have a PowerPoint that we'd kind of like to use to guide this. So first of all, just to tell you a little bit about CPSHR. So we are a self-supporting public agency. And so we've been in existence for over 40 years. And, what makes us unique is we're actually a public agency, that was developed through a joint powers agreement between several cities. And so we serve only governments, and it's mostly local governments. We do a little bit of state government work, and we've had about 2,000 recruitments for clients across the U.S. So getting a little bit more into our experience. So I mentioned about the authority. So we've been doing executive search for about 25 years. Our team has executive recruiters. We also do a lot of other human resources work, training, and pretty much anything you would need on a human resources level. We've done more than 100 city manager, CEO, executive director searches and general manager searches. In the last 5 years, we've done 24 city manager searches. So again, to just tell you a little bit about both of us, I've been with CPSHR about 4.5 years. Prior to that, I was a city manager for 35 years in Illinois. So I, will bring that perspective to the recruitment. In my time with CPSHR, as well as my time as a city manager, I led and conducted more than 50 executive recruitments. I do live in Chicago, so easy access to Bay City, and I'm really the lead recruiter for all of our Midwest recruitments. And recently have done recruitments for Wichita, Kansas, Carbondale, Illinois, and Gillette, Wyoming, and really numerous CEO recruitments for special districts and counties. Rachel has been with us for since 2018. She's actually close to you enough where she could certainly drive up at a moment's notice for meetings in Jackson County. And so she's led a number of recruitments for city, counties, special district, states, and including city manager and assistant manager recruitments for Simi Valley and Travis County and more. So the timeline and approach. So our approach, and so what I want to emphasize is that we custom this to you, but we do have, very specific approach that is in 3 phases, which I'm going to let Rachel talk about in a second. As you can see from this timeline, and again, all this is in the proposal that we gave you, it's about 3.5 months. A lot of that depends, frankly, often on your timetable, how many stakeholders you have, and and some of the things you may want to do in terms of the semifinal, final interview process. But that's what our normal recruitment is, but we would sit down with you at the beginning of this and work out a recruitment schedule that fits your needs. But at this point, I'll let Rachel kind of get into those phases in a little bit more detail.
Perfect, thank you. I'm gonna show all these at once. Okay, so in our full service recruitments, we have 3 phases. Phase 1 is dedicated to gathering as much information as possible to ensure that we're finding the right candidate for the city. Should you award us the contract, we would set up a kickoff meeting, that's what we call it, with you or with a designated hiring committee and outline the timing for the recruitment. As Dave showed in the previous slide, we would talk about communication expectations and then identify any staff or community leaders that you'd like us to speak with to gather information. Once the call is complete, we schedule a time to speak one-on-one with each of you if you weren't present for the kickoff meeting, or if you wanted to share your thoughts one-on-one with us outside of the kickoff meeting. And then we'd have conversations with any other stakeholder that you'd like us to receive feedback from. We take all that information and we craft a beautiful brochure that we would share with the candidates, and that would advertise the position. It would share information about the city. We'd use beautiful pictures with your permission. And also it would share the ideal candidate profile. So phase 2, once the brochure is approved, is when we'd start the active recruitment. And that's usually where it takes the longest. We usually advise 30 days for this process. We'd start by advertising the position in places such as LinkedIn, ICMA, the Michigan Municipal League. And in our database, we have approximately 13,000 individuals who have subscribed specifically to receive city management notifications. So we'd also start by sending an e-blast out to them. And then as that is circulating and getting the word of mouth out there, that's when we start contacting individuals that we think would be a best match for the city. And we would use tools such as Zoom Info and LinkedIn to find their contact information, and then contact them using cold calling and then follow-up messages to share the brochure. And again, we would advise 30 days at least for this process, just so we can find the best possible talent pool. Each week, we would provide you an update on efforts made, so that way there's no guessing on how the recruitment is going. And we're always available for questions outside of those check-ins. After the application deadline has passed, we will narrow down the pool to usually the top 10, but it's depending on your preference. And then we conduct phone screenings with those candidates. While we're doing that, we'll provide you preliminary reports of all the candidates that we're planning on speaking with, and you'll get to review their applications as we're doing the phone interviews. So then that way, when we conduct the final step of phase 2, which is presenting our tiered ranking, you'll already be familiar with the candidates that we're discussing. The goal in every phase is to ensure that there's no guesswork for you or the candidates, especially in this phase. And we work really hard to make sure that both sides are engaged and informed. And then the final selection, phase 3, is the selection process. And in those steps, we will organize and facilitate panel interviews, both virtually and in person, depending on your preference. We'll assist candidates with arranging travel, we'll provide evaluation materials, and we'll be on site to facilitate panel debriefing and selection. For the candidate that is offered the position, we'll help with negotiations and background checks. And basically, our goal is to help make the process as easy as possible for you, so that way you can focus on the hardest part, which is choosing the final candidate.
So let me just couple more slides, and then we'll let you ask your questions. Client satisfaction is very important to us. So one of the things you will get from us, and we encourage you certainly to talk to our other clients. You know, Grand Rapids is one that we do some work for regularly. We can get you other clients, but we believe in kind of consistent and timely communication. What I like to do is do regular weekly email updates on how the recruitment is going, challenges we've had. Some of our clients like to have just check-in meetings from time to time. We can certainly do that. You'll see a satisfaction survey from us post-recruitment, and you know, we take all of our input on those to heart, and we use that to certainly grow and learn from. And we believe that type of feedback is really important. And once we're done with the contract, doesn't mean we're done with you. I mean, this, you know, it's really important to us, not that we only place somebody, that we place somebody that can succeed in your agency. So we want to make sure, and so we'll check in with you typically after around 6 months. We can also check in with the placement if you want to, but that's a critical part of this, is making sure that that person easily assimilates into the Bay City organization. And along those lines, assuming you do a full search, you'll get a 1-year guarantee. So if that person leaves, or for some reason you decide that candidate was not a good fit, we will do another recruitment, for you. And the only thing we charge are just direct costs like advertising, background check fees, and travel. So, why CPS HR? So again, we've done recruitments from cities of Bay City size and larger. We really pride ourselves on sourcing through traditional and non-traditional sources, and big believer in personal contacts. We have, and I'm sure you've heard it from other clients, that they have, they have a database. They use all sorts of tools like LinkedIn, Zoom Info, but we'll do, phone calls. When I recently did the Wichita city manager, myself and the other person that we were working with, we called about 120 people. And that's when you're going to get real response, especially in a city manager recruitment when you have a lot of candidates that are really busy. So stakeholder outreach is something we really specialize in. We will do stakeholder out, and that's obviously at the beginning, at the end. I've had one recruitment where we had 30 stakeholders we talked to. You may have that many, you may not have as many. And at the end, we really specialize if you want citizen input in the form of either citizen surveys, online town hall meetings, citizen panels, all things that we put together and can do. When we do outreach, our efforts are to seek a diverse pool. Obviously our goal is to give you the best qualified candidates, but we also try to make sure that comes from a diverse pool. I talked about the Joint Powers Authority already. We've got, experience Midwest and Michigan. And I guess most important thing is, this will be a high priority project for us. Both of us are at the point where, this would be something that would be certainly at the top of our list for getting this done. We don't miss deadlines. We don't have projects drag on. That's just not something we believe in. So again, so at this point, we want to make sure that there's a lot of opportunity for you to ask questions. And thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to start with Commissioner Coakley.
Walk us through a retained executive search you led end to end.
You said walk you through a search that we led, and I didn't hear the last part of it.
No, the mic.
Grab him, give him the mic.
Yeah, you just put it at the center.
Walk us through a retained executive search you led end to end.
You said led and finished?
Led from end to end, yes.
Yes.
Led from end to end.
Oh, led from end to end. Okay.
You guys are good down at that.
Sure. I mean, I'll just use the most, recent example that we did for the city of Wichita that I referenced a few minutes ago. So in that one, we spent a couple weeks per the city's request interviewing, I think, about 20 some stakeholders. We would have meetings with business people. We met with all the department heads. We met with each elected official individually, and we asked some questions about what they were looking for in a new city manager, try to make sure that it's tailored to them. So with that, that's the information that we use to put together the recruitment brochure. After that is that second phase that Rachel talked about, where we did our outreach. We believe in a 30-day period for outreach to give us enough time to do all that personal outreach that I talked about, as well as making sure we follow up with candidates in our database and LinkedIn and other tools. After that's done, Rachel and I will screen the top candidates. We'll give you a report. We'll give you a report that will have, the resumes and the candidates we're screening, but we'll also have a list of all the candidates that applied. I mean, you may look at that and say, why didn't you interview this person? We'll tell you why, but I mean, it's ultimately up to you if there's additional candidates you want us to look at. And then that third part, with Wichita, they had a very extensive kind of semifinal and final interview process that did involve a number of citizen panels. We did have a town hall meeting. We actually led the town hall meetings. We had questions that the audience asked both beforehand and through online that I kind of read and guided the candidates through. And at the end is when they chose a top candidate. We did a final background check on that candidate, criminal, civil, financial, and we also helped negotiate the contract for them. So, that's city manager contracts, city manager recruitments. We know are always going to be a little more in depth, but that's probably a good example of city manager recruitment.
How do you handle confidentiality in sensitive replacements? And how do you manage conflicts of interest, either with the city or with other candidates you have?
So I think I heard conflicts of interest and confidentiality. Is that how we manage that? Yeah, okay. Confidentiality is paramount to both the success and the reputation of the recruiter, as well as the client that we're sponsoring. So we do not, we promise candidates confidentiality, and what we do tell them, and especially in city manager recruitment, most city manager recruitments, the confidentiality is promised until the point of the final interviews. Because with most of our clients, with final interviews, they will do a public process, as I mentioned with Wichita, and then obviously that confidentiality is gone at that time. In terms of conflicts of interest, one of the things that we will do is certainly, not only ask you, but really anybody that might be participating in either the interviews or the review, if they either have knowledge of the candidates. We ran into sometimes with stakeholder meetings, you may have internal candidates, some that we will want to interview a lot of them to get their input, but if someone is going to be a candidate, that should be something that we need to note of, because we typically I want to see them involved with that. So, sorry, Rachel, anything you want to add to that?
No, that's about the same, is that, anyone who plans on applying, we have them let us know so that they don't participate in any of the process. And then all the documents that we share, we list that it's confidential. We remind that it's confidential. If we're sharing it with a staff panel, we remind them to keep it to themselves, just because the impact of a candidate applying and having that leaked, we've seen it in the news where people have been let go from their city because they are interviewing elsewhere. So it's really important to us, and we try to emphasize that with everyone that we work with.
All right.
We're
I got a green
actually
light.
getting. I think we've actually hit our time. All right, we've actually hit our time. So, what we'll do is, do you have any questions of us?
I did a lot of research online and in the community. Looks like a lot of interesting things going on. Interesting staffing with your public safety and electric department. And I do see your incumbent is looking at leaving mid-March. So assuming that's correct, obviously you'll want to start this as soon as possible. And are you thinking, do you have like an internal person that you're looking at as acting, or what have you been discussing with that?
Sure, I think there's there's consideration for our leaving director or leaving city manager to maybe stay on until we find the replacement. That'll be up for consideration. Yep. So.
That would be great, especially just in terms of the transfer of power. So, Rachel, anything you can think of? Want to ask?
No, a lot of those are reserved for, should we get it in the ideal candidate? It seems like you're doing a lot of economic development and community development, and that's really exciting. So it'd be really, I'd be really excited to help build out the ideal candidate profile for that.
Wonderful. Yeah, and we're going to be making a decision here next hour, I think. So, all right. Well, thank you so much.
Well, we'd be very excited to assist you, and we'd be ready to go as soon as.
All right.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you fill out your score sheets. Obviously, ratings scale there. It's evenly weighted, but I think, I don't know, whatever's easier.
If that's what's on the sheet, let's just go with it.
Okay, so
I'd say I
total
wouldn't
up.
change it.
Yeah, just total up what's on the sheet. Obviously, rating times weight equals the score, and then total all the way down to the bottom, if you would. And
I assume our name's going where interview.
make sure you have your names on every forms, just because we're doing it.
That would be interviewer?
Yeah.
Yep, we are the interviewer. Yep, so we're gonna take a. We're gonna do. We're not gonna take it. We're actually gonna do public input while we're tabulating the scores. Oh, but how are you gonna take the minute?
Yeah. I just didn't know if you wanted
Oh, first.
final scores.
Oh, yeah. We'll do public input for final score. So, go ahead and we'll tabulate. We'll take a little bit, and then we'll do public input, and then we'll do final scores. All right. Thank you. We're in recess until we get scored.
Point of order, another question.
All right, that's fine. Let's do a public. So at this time, we'll call for public input. If anyone would like to come forward, we have we'll have to give him the microphone, or whoever wants to come talk. You do have 5 minutes to speak, and Commissioner Coakley will serve as. Oh yeah. That,
Just make sure you turn it on.
Jeff Reed. Hi, my name is Jeff Reed, 409 Fillmore, Bay City, Michigan. I am a lifelong resident of the city of Bay City. One thing I would like the commissioners to take into consideration as we go through this process, let's try to make sure whatever company that we pick to go with, I think it's important that we know that they're not in bed with the Bay City Bridge Partners, have done business with them before in the past, or plan on doing business with them in the future. That would be a conflict of interest, in my opinion. And I have to say in my opinion up here so the Bay City Bridge Partners don't sue me. But I guess that's just my major concern is whatever firm we decide to go with, we have to make sure that they're looking out for our best interests, not the Bay City Bridge Partners. And that's all I have. With that, I wish you all the best. And whatever firm we decide to go with, I hope we can find the best person to help us out in the city of Bay City. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward for public input? All right, for seeing no one to come forward, we'll close public input and we'll move then to scoring. So we'll go into a brief recess until all the scores are tabulated.
Put our name on one sheet.
All of them, please.
All right, everybody. We're going to come back. We do have the scoring. So thank you, everybody. I know it's been another long night, but appreciate everybody taking the time and coming out. Appreciate all our folks who submitted proposals to us. And so everybody had an opportunity to rank through the scoring. And so the top scoring with a score of 4,860 was Vetrano. I don't know their full name. It's his name, but Consulting, Vetrano Consulting. The next score close to that was Yo and Yo with 4,470. And then the third one with the 4,165 scoring was Strategic. I don't have the scissors sheet. Oh, there is Strategic Government Resources. So those were the top three. Again, 400 points roughly. Vetrano was the highest scoring agency and firm. So, yes.
I'm sure people will ask, so I just want to know, I know that all of the commissioners used the rubric and we did the ranking, but I know people will ask whether or not you also ranked and whether or not that makes a difference in that final number.
Oh, I don't know that. I did.
We did put him into the final number.
Yep.
Yes.
I ranked. Yep. I ranked every firm.
Okay, and if we could just say whether or not it would make a difference in the final outcome, I think that would be something people would want to know too.
We can calculate it. Sure.
Yeah, I can do that like right up the top here. I just have to do some math. It's getting bad now. Just give me 1 second, okay?
Got a captive audience.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Not yet.
Are you sure that's correct, though?
Yeah, third.
That's not Yo and
Yeah,
Yo.
that's the third, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one, and, yeah.
Vetrano is still the top.
How do you say that?
Vetrano. I want to get it right, but I believe it's Vetrano.
So, here we go. Yep, so these are the top three.
Okay. So after removing my scoring. Okay. Removing my scoring, it's the same order. So, again, just for folks playing at home.
Same difference?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the mayor does have the ability to opine on things, and you can take that into consideration if you don't. So, but it was the same scoring. So, so with that being said, there is one item on the agenda. Any other discussion before we move into? Yeah, Commissioner Zine.
Make a motion.
Oh, make sure. Is this thing on? I might not have had my mic on. All right. So, So I'll have the clerk. Do you have any discussion points or any discussion before we move into regular agenda items? Yes.
I guess I just want.
Oh. Okay. So let's. If you want to make a motion, Commissioner Zanotti.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion. We hire the firm that came out right at top.
Vetrano Consulting.
Vetrano.
Yep. Is there a second? Commissioner Runberg.
Second.
All right. Now discussion. Thank you.
I guess my only discussion is trying to make sure that we're doing the next steps as quickly as possible. So if there's anything that we can give direction to the city manager tonight, because we want to do this all as quickly as possible. So if there's anything the city manager needs, since we're all here, let's do that.
I mean, I can reach out to him first thing in the morning so we can get it started and set the first phase up.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do have a meeting right away next week too, so it'll be helpful. So if we have to take any formal action, I would imagine though this tonight would trigger a lot of that. So, any other discussion? All right, so there is a motion on the floor and a second. So why don't we do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Coakley.
Yes is to hire them?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Doyle.
Yes?
Kenny.
Yes.
Donati.
Yes.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Runberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
And Kubik.
Yes.
9 yes.
All right, so the motion has passed. So any other business before us tonight? All right,
That's it.
that's it. Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you. See you next week.